My name is Tonya Curry, and this is this week's Acumen Media Report. It's entitled, If Looks Could Kill, a Week of Creepy Peepers. It was surreal watching Kagame, Rwanda's president, tell Ramaphosa that if he wanted a war, he could have one. Kagame's eyes terrified me. If looks could kill. That man meant what he said, and Cupcake had touched him on his studio. Cast your mind back to when we sent peacekeeping forces to the war-torn Congo. This was under the directive of our former Minister of Education, Angie 30% Motshekga. She sent 3,000 of our boys to die. Are we really in the Congo to make peace? What if I told you that it is rumored that Uncle Gwede, Pooza-Face Mantashe, and others have mines over there, and that we are protecting politicians' personal interests in illegal mining in a country we have no business in? Does that make sense now? Looks could kill. I watched a video of our soldiers in Goma surrounded by echoes of gunfire. They were waving a white flag over the sandbags they were huddled behind. Goma is filled with mercenaries as the country is ravaged by gangsters hoarding minerals. The DRC is fabulously rich below the earth, but above the ground, it is painfully poor. The irony is lost on many. 15 of our soldiers met their fate in a country they'd never seen before. Badly armed and poorly trained, these lambs were sent straight to the slaughterhouse. Some jested on social media that Angie had sent our boys over armed with shambox. It would have been funny, except it wasn't. Watching Angie Motshekga on screen is absolutely painful. She is incoherent. She looks like she's never seen a mirror. This woman decimated our education and reduced our nation to a 30% pass mark, and she quite literally cannot speak English.
We reinforce on the basis that because there's been this escalated hostilities, then we spoke back home with the meeting that General attended with the National Council of Arms.
Regardless, when she learnt of the dead, she hopped on a plane and spent 10 million rand to land in Goma, only to return home without a single casualty on board. 5 men were badly injured and, aside from special flights, there's no access in or out of that region. Can you believe that that wasn't the worst of it? Jeepers creepers. Uncle Cyril sent a tweet, yes, a tweet, calling the Rwandan army the militia. And that was the moment we almost entered into a war with a country on our own continent. The president of Rwanda, Kagame, took to television and laid down the law without exception. If South Africa wants a fight, they can have one.
South Africa dares even issue threats about what is likely to happen after that and so on and so forth. Of course, we will see what threats they are talking about.
We learned 2 valuable lessons this week. 1, if we're ever under attack, our army is moot and we should assume brace position. And 2, never put a Minister of Education in charge of your defence force. I watched several defence experts tell journalists that South Africa should keep very quiet now, let the dust settle a bit, and then whisk our soldiers out of there as quickly and as quietly as possible. Do you think we'll achieve that small feat? 3,000 lives depend on it. Bring them home. Yanis Wallace, the man who assassinated Chris Hani, agreed to an interview with ENCA's Annika Larsen. She's the same chick who interviewed Director in that explosive interview that amounted to nothing. Muggs Director, we called him. Remember the guy who left us in darkness and exited South Africa before his morning coffee got cold? Anyway, I digress. Annika said she'd been trying to interview Wallace for 15 years. The interview was absolutely shocking. This man showed no remorse for murdering an iconic freedom fighter. Annika asked him if he'd been paid to kill Hani. His response that he was offered money, but he had refused it as he felt killing Hani was his duty rather than a job.
No, I was offered money, but I never accepted money. I said, yeah, I was doing it for the country.
He added that, if given the opportunity, he would do it all again.
If the circumstances would have been like they have been, I would do it again.
This was the moment when we should have taken this psychopath, extradited him back to South Africa, placed him in the toughest prison that the country has to offer until the day he dies. He was petrifying, his eyes cold, piercing and emotionless. You got your interview, Annika. We've all felt that. Killer eyes. And then a day I thought would never come. Duduzile Zuma appeared in court for her part in the July insurrection. Acumen Media released a report in July 2021 called The Real Instigators of the Insurrection. In it, we identified via unbiased technology who had made the most impact across social media channels and had a major role in driving chaos and destruction in our country. There were two main culprits, Sapiti Piti Evaluator and Zuma's daughter, Duduzile. She told the looters exactly where the chaos was about to ignite, and she amplified the carnage that we're already seeing taking place on the ground. She used the phrase, "we see you," and then she would name the location of the forthcoming round of malicious mayhem. This would give the Tutsis the directive of where to loot. This woman terrifies me. I find her scarier than Putin on a bear. She has this wild, unhinged spark in her eyes that raises the hair on the back of my neck, wide-eyed and terrified. Let's try and close off South Africa. I'll make it snappy. Eskom wants to raise the prices by 12.7%. The repo rate dropped by 25 basis points, and Vicky Tablanche's murderers were back in court. Ex-Judge Slaughter is running away from sexual harassment claims, and an elephant trampled a tourist in the Kruger. I wonder if that photo was worth it. And then the filth that was arrested last week with 10 million child porn images has a 25-year-old girlfriend that was also involved. That makes me feel sick. Hang 'em high. They've arrested 5 suspects in footballer Fleurs' murder, and 5 people were hacked to death in Inanda. Aside from that, most people got worked up about the Expropriation Act that was finally passed into law, and this primarily led to the crumbling of an already unsteady GNU. There was a cabinet lechotla to try and sort that out. Of course, they didn't actually resolve anything, but the word lechotla sounds good, doesn't it? Do you know what didn't sound good, though? 51 Putco buses were torched in a taxi mafia-fueled war on our own soil. 51. That's a ridiculous number. Where's Mchunu? I didn't see him. Did you? Keep your eyes peeled. And then the country was turned upside down as Trump froze all foreign aid funding for a 90-day period. Many NGOs in South Africa are funded by PEPFAR, one of the programs halted by the tangerine. Yes, good people, we have arrived at the section of the column that is dedicated for Team Trump. I know. I'm also tired, and it's only been 1 week. There was an air disaster crash involving a plane and a helicopter where all parties on board were killed. I was surprised Trump didn't blame Biden or the LGBT community. Oh, wait, he did.
I put safety first. Obama, Biden, and the Democrats put policy first. And they put politics at a level that nobody's ever seen, because this was the lowest level.
I don't make this up. I read the news, so you don't have to. Then RFK made a turncoat in his first session in Senate. One of the senators asked why his stance on abortion had changed. She quoted from past comments where he had made it clear that his stance was, your body, your choice. His response was that he agrees with Trump that any abortion is a tragedy, and that abortion should be only state-approved.
I agree with President Trump that every abortion is a tragedy. I agree with him that we cannot be a moral nation if we have 1.2 million abortions a year. I agree with him that the states should control abortion.
Can you believe that? In a country with a massive drug and child trafficking problem, children are now to be born into unwanted homes to mothers that are incapable of caring for them. Not very smart, is it? Back to Trump. He put a group of Colombians on a cargo plane and flew the migrants back home in chains. The Colombian president said that Trump was merciless and refused to let the flight disembark on Colombian soil. Trump threatened Colombia, and the next thing, the same Colombian president sent his own planes to pick up these people. Trump also said that he and Elon had stopped a $50 million transaction that was going to Gaza for condoms. Trump said that Hamas were using them to make bombs. Again, I promise you, I'm not making this up. It turns out that the transaction was for Gaza in a region of Mozambique that is heavily impacted by HIV and AIDS. I'm sure this misinformation will be Biden's fault. And talking about Trump's stance on Palestine, he was on record saying that it was better to clean out Gaza and that Egypt and Jordan should take the 1.5 million Gazan-based Palestinians. We all hear what Trump says, but do we hear what he doesn't say? There were 2.4 million Gazans before October the 7th. You do the math. Of course, Jordan and Egypt told him to get knotted, but now we know exactly what his plan is for Palestine. We focus on hostage releases and the victory in the eyes of the Palestinian people as they return to the rubble and start to rebuild. Meanwhile, in the annexed and occupied West Bank, bombs and demolition vehicles are playing out the next phase of this genocide. You see, Trumpette said there was no West Bank, and that delighted the Zionists as they found another set of neighbors to annihilate. The genocide didn't stop, it just moved GPS coordinates. Still on Trump and Palestine, apparently any Hamas sympathizers would lose their right to tertiary education in the USA.
I will cancel the student visas of Hamas and sympathizers on college campuses. The college campuses are being taken over.
So if you wear a keffiyeh or carry a Free Palestine placard, you're no longer allowed to study. That should worry you more than anything I've written in this column or read to you today. How on earth do I cheer you up, my dear friend? I know, not only is it the weekend, but you've made it to the end of January. That deserves a celebration, doesn't it? I think I may jump on a boat and dive into crystal waters to try and find a potato bass who fancies a cuddle. We all need a hug. I'm Tonya Curry, and thank you for scratching the surface with me and Acumen Media.